Man. I think we're live here. And if you're seeing this as like a replay, as like a it'll be a live stream replay, but I'm going to treat it kind of like a video today because there's some rumors. We got about 50 minutes until the game kicks off. So I want to talk about these rumors, but I also can use this as a time to do our pregame show. So this is a little 2-for-1 kind of action here, okay? A 2-for-1 video or a live stream. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think this is going to happen. And look, man, there hasn't been a trade rumor or player that I've really kind of fallen in love with the idea or that I've really believed is actually going to happen until this one. I'm going to just put it out there like that. I think the Lions are going to trade for Trey Hendrickson. And you guys know I don't do that as for a lot of these, man, I usually keep my expectations pretty tempered. I didn't think the Lions were going to make a significant move. We've talked about different options, and I see y'all in the chat, man. Give me a 1 if we sound good. And then today, we get out of church, and I'm looking through my phone, and I see that he's inactive. Yep, I see that he's inactive today. And the last time I remember this happening was when Zadarius Smith was inactive, right before we made the trade. And I'm going to go through some of the rumors. I think it's going to happen. And I'll say this. I think this is definitely the most likely trade scenario. I think if the Lions make a trade, this is the trade I think they make. First off, let's start with the and I appreciate the ones. Let me start with the financial element of this, as I'm kind of working on putting a thumbnail here. The financial element is Trey Hendrickson financially is very reasonable for the Lions. He signed the 1-year deal. He's also only got an $8 million acquiring cap hit for the Lions if they were to pull this off. They also could look at trying to lower that. But I think that financially is about as reasonable as you're going to get, especially for a good player. Like that's as reasonable as it's going to get for a good player. So there's that element to it. A lot of these other rushers, there's some gymnastics that you got to work around. There's a lot of things you have to work around financially. I think $8 million, while it's not the cheapest, it is affordable for the Lions. So there's that. And also, he is to me the best player that's legitimately on the market, especially if you're looking at it from a pass rushing perspective. Give me 1 second. So, yeah, we've talked about a lot of different options. I've watched a lot of different players. But to me, the best player that's actually available now, according to 40 minutes ago, by some of these rumors that have been put out there, oh, man, I typed it in wrong again. Okay, there we go. And like I said, if you're just joining this, we're going to use this as a time to both talk about this and also a little bit of pregame here. I just want to get this image because, man, that thing will not load. So give me 1 sec. I wanted to jump on this immediately. As soon as I got home, I'm like, I'm just going to start the live stream and we're just gonna do this. No need to wait here. That looks good. We'll make that work. Chad, how we doing? We good? Let me pop this little picture on here. That way the thumbnail is not just nothing. Let me throw this on here. Can I do it from here? I think I don't know. I used to do this, I thought. Edit? Okay. Oh, that's why I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, edit this. There we go. Okay, I figured it out. Man, it's been a minute since I've live streamed like this. 12? What time is it? 12? Okay. Now, I think we're good now. We good? All right, cool, man. And look, I got my pregame bet in, so I want to talk about that too because I put together my prop. My player prop parlay kind of deal, which I usually do for most games. I usually do that. I haven't done it the last few weeks. We had the bye week last week. I haven't actually placed it over the last few weeks, but this week I was like, all right, I got some time. Let me get in on this and make it happen. And man, my payout is plus 2,400, and I actually feel really good about this one hitting. But this is the type of news that, like I said, there hasn't been anything that I've really fell in love with yet. That's why I haven't had any video like, I think this is good. Like, I haven't gotten there yet with anything except for this move. So if you're just joining, let me read through some of the rumors that have popped up and tell you why I think this is going to go down. So some of the rumors that we've had recently, let me go through them, are this. So 50 minutes ago, NFL Rumors put out Bengals are now open to trade Trey Hendrickson. Now, NFL Rumors is what it is. It's not like a Diana Rossini or something posting that. But I've seen a lot of these, and I feel like they've had a pretty good hit record. Like, a lot of these have had some legitimacy to them. But 24 hours ago, we've gotten rumors popping up everywhere that, hey, man, the Lions have made several calls. The Lions were included in Diana Rossini's report about teams calling for Logan Wilson and Trey Hendrickson. So, to me, this is the first one that I'm really excited about, to be honest with you, because a lot of these players that we look at here, you kind of like can talk yourself into it making sense, but I just struggle to love any of these, to be honest. Even like the Jalen Phillips, and it's like, well, first off, he costs more financially. He just costs more, so you'd immediately have to look at Miami and say, okay, well, you take on some of this contract, and to me, he's not the player that Trey Hendrickson is. Like, not even close, to be honest with you, especially as a pass rusher, and I think his style doesn't really mesh perfectly with what the Lions like to do. So it doesn't make a ton of sense for me that they would even do that. Plus, the asking price, on top of asking them to take money off, it's probably just too much for what you're actually getting there. Now, we'll see. I mean, I think they'll get less than what the asking price reportedly has been, but I just think that that's too much. Trey Hendrickson, on the other hand, while we don't have the most capital to work with because of those third-round picks that we had to send out to go get Isaac Tesla, I think this is one where you're willing to pay a bit more, because if you look at it from the Cincinnati side of things, one, you could look at it as, hey, we might get a comp pick, right? We use him as a rental for this year. If he walks in free agency, we might get a comp pick. And it's safer than like the Jalen Phillips one, because with Phillips, what I'm really worried about is, hey, you make that trade and you have the idea that, look, we lose it as a rental, maybe we get a comp pick after this year. Someone's going to pay him if he just plays at the same level. But the concern is this guy's had a lot of injuries. And if you have him walk and you're thinking you might get a comp pick in return because you don't replace that through free agency, there's a real shot that wherever he goes, he's not healthy next season. And then that happens, and all of a sudden you don't end up with anything because he's not adding value to that team. And I think that's very, very on the table. Trey Hendrickson, I don't look at it like that. First off, I think he's going to get paid, and I think there's a much better chance that he plays wherever he goes. So I think there is a real possibility. It's a much better chance that you end up getting a comp pick out of it. And again, I think the Lions will be willing to pay this price. I can't explain it outside of the financial aspect. Makes sense. The financial aspect does make sense. And player-wise, this is a player that you can kind of fall in love with the idea of. There hasn't been one like that for me. I just have that feeling. You know, last year was Zadarius Smith, but I got to be honest, as soon as I started to see these rumors actually pop up, and then today that they're willing to trade him, it just all makes sense. I think if there's a move that they make, a big significant move, I think this is the move. And I just get that sense, man, him being active. Now, he's dealing with a hip injury, so there could be just like legitimate, like he's not available, but he is inactive. And usually that pops up right before the trade deadline for a reason. So I just want to pop in here and say that I'm leaning right now that there's a better than 50% chance that after Tuesday, Trey Hendrickson ends up being a Lion. That's kind of where I'm at. Plus, what they said with Marcus Davenport was, and Dan Campbell's update was, like, hey, we think he's going to be back. We're confident he's going to be back at some point this year. But he couldn't give us a timeline. We've seemingly heard no updates on Josh Paschal to this point. So I don't really know where we're at with him. I think at some point Davenport will be back, but they haven't given us an actual like timeline at all for it. And they haven't given us anything on Josh Paschal, it feels like. So I don't know at all what that's looking like. I love me some Al-Quadin Muhammad, but rotationally, Al-Quadin Muhammad doesn't play every snap, which is okay. That's a good thing. But also, I don't think that, you know, every game you like him as much as others. And that's not to say Trey is like a dominant run defender, but a lot of times you stay away from that dude. And I think if there is a move, like, we know how stingy Brad Holmes is with his draft picks, and I love it about him. And he's the same way with the financial element. If it's an $8 million acquired cap, especially if you could get that to lower even more, and I'm going to look into it here while we're live, like, yo, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. And I actually want to pull up the contract form real quick. Take a look at this. Because we know he signed that one-year deal, and it just makes sense for Cincinnati's side to, you know, do this. So, okay, this year he has a $16 million base salary, 9.1 prorated signing bonus, which is according to Over the Cap. So that makes his cap number $25 million. But obviously, you know, they can they'll take on that signing bonus there. So if the $8 million is a legitimate cost to take him on, I think the Lions would be willing to do that. I assume over the cap is projecting it closer to the 16 million by the way that they usually do their numbers. So let me do that real quick. Let me pull that up. And I can pull these things up on the screen. I haven't used this in a minute, man. So it's kind of weird using but I got my camera figured out. So I've been fired up to just go live. And I haven't forgot about you on the draft side of things. I've just really dove into the prospects this last week. Has been really heavy for me. So we're in a good spot going forward there. So yeah, over the cap projecting 16 million. So they're different numbers there. But let's say they can get it around 12. You know what I mean? Let's say they can get it something like that. 10, 12 million. I think they'd be willing to spend that price for what they'd be getting in return. And again, this one is not one that I have to talk myself into. He's a very good pass rusher. Very good pass rusher. Now, will they give up a second? I don't know they'd be willing to do that. And that's where it becomes tough because Cincinnati could look at as well. If we just keep him, we might get a comp pick elsewhere. But again, there's a risk from their side as well to that versus having a pick in hand. And Cincinnati, for me, I mean, they, like, where they're at, I think they'd be willing to, take something like that. So we'll see how this all plays out. But I just feel like if there's a trade that does go down, this is the trade that's going to happen. And I have that gut feeling I feel like it's going to happen. We'll see if it happens or not. So chat, let me give some shout outs in here, man. I see y'all in here. I just don't have it up on the screen, so it's not normal. Let me see who's in the chat. Charles in here. He says, big day, JMO. I think Brad wants an offensive lineman. See, I thought that too. Well, I don't want to say I thought that. I think that would make sense. I don't think he's going to make a move there. I'd be open to it. I don't think he's going to make the move there. One, I don't think he's looking for any. I think if he makes a trade, it would be a trade for a guy that could give him some insurance for Taylor Decker. Right? That's the move. And maybe if you could pull off and make a swing for a young guy that maybe has some upside that maybe could help you out, hey, next year as well. I don't think he would trade for an interior offensive lineman. Like, I think it's fun. It's a fun idea. Like, Kevin Zettler is a fun idea. I don't think he will do that. I don't think he wants to take away snaps from the young guards. He lets his young guys play. And I love that about him. I don't think – now, you could look at it as, okay, could we have some guard insurance? I think they like their interior depth. We haven't got a lot of great updates on Miles Frazier, but maybe at some point if he becomes available, then that gives us some of that depth back too. Tristan Colon, I also really like him too, so I think they feel pretty comfortable there. I don't think he's going to make a trade for a guy that's going to start. The only trade I think that he would make for an offensive lineman is insurance for tackle, and I don't see that. I don't know. I think it's just hard to trade for a lineman. You don't get a lot of moves there that happen. I don't think anything is going to go down there. Let me see who else is in chat. I'm not against it, though. Dolo Dynamite, man, it's good to see you. Every player, y'all keep speaking on, talking on, they're coming, coming back, hasn't helped us 2 years. Don't cry for limited again. Okay. So I assume, I'm seeing this chat, I'm assuming you're talking about kind of the Davenports and the Pascal kind of stuff. I assume that's what you're talking about there. Elkwani Muhammad's been a dog, though. I got to give him his love. Plus, Mekhi Wingo continues to be a healthy scratch, which is weird. It's kind of weird for me. Like, and I'm saying I don't get it, but it is kind of weird. It feels like they're not completely, found a spot where they're like, this guy's got to get snaps. They like Tyler Lacey, so, give Lacey credit. He's earned getting the looks that he's getting. But I think having Mekhi Wingo for depth is fantastic. And, shoot, by the time we may give it to the playoffs, we get to that point, Mekhi Wingo is going to be a big part of this, I think. He could be a big part of this. So could all these other guys that we're hoping to get back, Because as we know, there's a lot of season to go. Injuries are going to keep happening, unfortunately. So some of these dudes are going to be forced to step in. It's going to be good to have it. Let me see. Sometimes the best move is no move. And I don't disagree with that. Like, we did our Roundtable Sports show. And again, this is there's the perspective of what would I do versus what do I think they're going to do. We did that show and they said, what would you do? And I was like, I wouldn't do anything significant. I said, I wouldn't do anything major. And a lot of that was also based on the rumors that we had heard because I hadn't fallen in love with any of these dudes to the point where I'd be like, man, I would go get, I like watching Brad make draft picks. So a lot of times my preference is, hey, give him as many picks as possible. And I know he's willing to throw them around a little bit, but I'd rather give him that ammunition so he can go be aggressive in the draft. I don't want to throw picks away. And it's not throwing picks away, especially in this case, but that was my thought. On that roundtable, when we did our NFC North show, that's where I was at with it. And I was like, I think if they make a move, it'll be a smaller move, mainly because of the financial element. Well, I think there's flexibility here. This isn't a long-term move for them. It could be, but it isn't on the surface. And again, this is the only player that I felt that there's a legitimate chance that this actually goes down. There hasn't been one like that. We talked about a lot of guys because I want to hit on everything and I want to be prepared, especially when we start talking about some of the lesser-known players. I think it's worth having some sort of background. There's a lot of dudes that I've watched. There's a lot of guys that I've watched that I haven't talked about at all because I've had no interest in the idea. It just makes no sense to me. Some of them I reach a little bit just to, get that out there, get that content to you. But this is the first one where I see if Brad Holmes was legitimately going to be aggressive, and we're talking about it's not a 6 for a 7 swap. If he's legitimately going to be aggressive, this is the player I could see him doing. I don't see him legitimately getting aggressive, Jalen Phillips. I don't see it. I don't think he fits how they like to play stylistically. I think the financials are not ideal, to be honest with you. I don't think he'd be super interested in the long-term element of that. The injuries could definitely scare you away. So I don't think he would make a legitimate move for someone like that. Most of the players that have come up in trade rumors, I don't think makes a lot of sense for the Lions to go like, oh, let's go get aggressive here. The only one that I think is this rumor. That is one where I could say, you know what? As much as I know Brad loves and he cherishes those draft picks, this is one guy I think he'd make an exception for. I really do. And I think when you look at it financially, they're keeping their guys locked up. We look at kind of this outlook here. I think they're doing a really good job of trying to keep this window, as people would say, open. And I think they're going to continue to do that really well. I don't think this is like a panic move or anything like that, but I do think it's a guy that you can make an exception for. And we know if we go back to, what Brad Holmes has talked about in the past, because they've asked him about these all the time. They ask him about Jalen Ramsey, and they were like, well, the LA Rams did it. They said, forget the picks. We're going to go get somebody. And he's always been open to that idea, but he's like, it's got to make sense. It's got to be the right guy. And there hasn't been a guy this year that's made sense for that. Like, people bring Arden Key. It's like, all right, that's cool. I don't think they'd make that move. You have Al-Quani Muhammad. Why would you trade for Arden Key? To me, that doesn't make any sense. I just don't think it makes sense. So a lot of like the Cam Jordan that I liked that idea. I was like, well, if they do something, I think could see it being that because there's connections there. I don't think it would cost very much. And size-wise, he gives you flexibility that you have with Pascal, and you don't know when he's going to come back, and we don't really know with Davenport. But this is one that would is the right word, supersede here? That would supersede all of that idea, and it would just be like, hey, this player is good enough to go say that, all right, let's be a little aggressive here. You know what I mean? This is the first guy that makes sense. So again, this whole idea for me is the only player that I believe that legitimately we could see a move go down. And because here's the issue with Trey. Here's what I'll say. The issue for Trey in the past has never been like he's not good enough to trade for. We played Cincinnati. I was like, I don't think Trey's that. But the reason I stated that is because at that time it was financially there's a lot you got to deal with, right? It was looking at, well, you have to give him an extension. And also on top of that, so there's a financial element. We never really thought Cincinnati was going to trade him. There was never that real buzz there. It was kind of like, oh, well, if you give him enough. But now that these rumors are coming out that they'd be willing to move off him, and then today I see that he's inactive, now it kind of starts to make some sense. We're like, okay, well, actually, there could be a path to this going down. I could see a path to them making a push here. And we're hearing these rumors. Lions have made multiple calls. I just think it's on the table at this point. I think it's definitely on the table, and I think it's the most, like I said, I think it's either, at this point, if I had to put money on it, I would say it's this or nothing. I don't think anything happens if they don't make this trade. I don't think anything happens. So I just have a feeling that this is the most likely move they would make. I really do. And right now, I just get that gut feeling like I think it's going to go down. I could be wrong. I think it's going to go down. So I could be wrong, but I think it's going to happen. And I think right now, it's one of those things where it lines up to make sense. This is the first time I think it actually makes realistic sense. Cincinnati's side, it makes sense. Cincinnati, let's just get something for him. From Trey Hendrickson's side, I think it makes sense, right? Because even if it's not here, he can go get big money after this year. And all he's going to do is help his value by being on this team opposite of Hutch. I mean, think about it. Trey Hendrickson, in the past, I didn't love it because I don't want to give up that much for a player that financially I got to pay long-term, that costs this much money. I just don't see the sense of the investment here. But if it's financially reasonable, and you're kind of getting it as a rental, so the Bengals have to take that in consideration. Like, hey, we can't ask for maybe what we think we could ask for here. It's got to make sense. That's why you make multiple calls. But I think especially Cincinnati losing to the Jets, how crazy is this also, just for storylines? If this went down, that Aaron Glenn leads to the trade. I got to be honest, bro. Like, Aaron Glenn made this possible because he beat the dang Cincinnati Bengals last week. They beat the Bengals. And it's like, hey, man, I was cheering for him, but not for this. I was cheering for Aaron Glenn. I was watching. I was like, man, this is awesome. They need a win. I'm happy for you, Aaron Glenn. That could be the storyline, is that the Bengals beating or losing to the Jets is how this becomes possible. Also, I do think now the Ravens are going to win this division. I think they're going to win this division. I got to be honest, bro. They're the favorites to do it. They're going to win that division. You know what I mean? Like, does anybody really believe that the Bengals are going to win this division? I think Joe Flacco was a great pickup for them, by the way. I think they're going to win this division. And Cincinnati, I don't know how many answers they actually have. Like, even a DJ Turner trade, to me, I'm like, why would you trade DJ Turner? You don't have a lot of great talent defensively right now. Turner's a good player. He's young. He's playing well. Extend that guy. Trey Hendrickson, timeline-wise, I can see them moving off him. That's it. All right, now, let me see who else is in chat. We can start talking about this game a little bit. And then I'll end it. We'll start a news stream for the live watch party. And I think what I'm saying too, I hope that from who it's coming from, me, that it doesn't, that I'm not coming across as someone that just like, they're going to trade for this guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know I made a lot of videos on trade possibilities, but that's because I like to look at and just get an idea of who's actually out there. I don't think it's coming from that place. I don't think you guys are. I hope that's what it looks like. Is like, oh, I'm just throwing anybody. Like, you guys know that that's not really my style. I could have easily done that every year. I've never done that with Trey Hendrickson. Never. I just think that I have the feeling that I think this is going to go down. Who's taking Duracell's place? Okay, so I see some long-term talk here. Trade Ring. Oh gosh, I can't read. Trade Wingo, and that's possible too. I mean, he has been a healthy scratch. If we just going off the wall here, maybe it is possible. I wouldn't trade Alex. I would not put Alex out there. I mean, maybe, because of the Logan Wilson thing. I wouldn't trade Alex. I think he's been great. But I can see the idea. All right? It's like, hey, get out ahead of it. He may not be here long-term anyway, but I wouldn't trade Alex right now. The Wingo one is interesting, though, because it's not that we don't have good players. I wouldn't want to trade Wingo because I think financially he also helps us here as we go forward. And like I said, I think he could be very beneficial in the play. I mean, if you get to the playoffs, even if they pulled this trade off, someone gets banged up. The good thing that the Lions have is they do have a lot of interior defensive line depth. So it's, I mean, you know what? Charles is on the table. I mean, we got 4 really good interior defensive linemen. And, I mean, if there's anything that Brad Holmes could take from how last year ended, it'd be nice to have some depth on that D-line. And we definitely feel really good about the interior. That thing is trending the right direction. Truth be told, I want Jalen Phillips. And that's fair. Like, to each their own. I think Jalen Phillips is fun to talk about. I think he's maybe the second best edge rusher if Trey Hendrickson is legitimately available out there. I just don't think his style meshes as well with what the Lions like to do. I don't think the Lions look at Jalen Phillips and say, oh, that's a Lion. I just don't get that vibe. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see that play style. I see a lot of interior wins. I think he dominates from the interior. He doesn't finish a lot of sacks. It's not even an injury thing for me. I just don't think his style is how the Lions play. He's much more of a finesse rusher. He doesn't play through people a ton. And he's got so many reps where he's running past the quarterback. And it's like, that's okay. I think for a lot of teams, they're cool with that. Just for the Lions and what their emphasis has been, I just don't see them being like, that's the guy. That's the guy for it, especially for what it's probably going to cost to do it. It may cost less than Trey, but it could cost more than Trey. I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. That doesn't mean I'd be against it, but like, if you're really going to push, your money in a little bit here and push, like, let's give up a legitimate draft pick, I wouldn't do that for Phillips. If it was, hey, here's a 6th round pick, okay, now it becomes kind of interesting. Or a 5th round pick, maybe it's interesting. Anything more than that, I struggle to feel like it's actually an interesting idea for us. Cowboys, Eagles, and 49ers are making calls too. They are. So again, like, this is not like, oh, Lions have made the trade. Make that clear. Lions are making calls like the title says, and I think it's going to happen. There's no confirmation this is going to happen. I'm just giving you my gut feeling, and a lot of these are gut feeling when you watch them and you see the financials and you think about what you'd have to give up. I haven't had that feeling about any player yet. I made the case that Cam Jordan makes sense. I haven't had that feeling about any player yet. Not one. That was like, I think they're going to do this. Because if I did, I would have made that video. Trust me, I would have made that video. That's why I'm here live saying that to you. And we got about 30 minutes till kickoff, so we're going to do a little pregame talk here as well. I want to tell you guys too. Here's what I put together for my part. Hey, let me know what y'all think. This is my parlay for today. Give me your thoughts on this. All right, give me your thoughts. Here's my parlay today. I got 9.5 receiving yards, over 9.5 receiving yards for Khalif. I think Khalif, it only takes 1 reception for that. He's typically pretty effective against the Vikings. Plus, I would have liked to put Tesla here. There was no props for him. So, all right, let's leave Khalif. I have a Lee McNeil over 0.5 sacks. I think their interior is a weakness. I think him coming off a bye week, playing 40-plus snaps is good. And if we play with a lead, he'll get a lot of opportunities. And clearly, right now, at this very moment, he is the pass rush package piece. That's why he played so much in his first game back. If we can play with a lead, I think he'll get a lot of looks. And also, if you get a guy like Trey, you could take some snaps off of that. Jamison Williams over 3.5 receptions. Honestly, I feel like that's a lock. I think he's going to get a lot of targets today. Stylistically, and it just kind of makes sense with all the buzz. Coming off a bye week, I think he's going to get plenty of looks. In big downs, too. Third downs, I think he's going to get a little bit more involved. And David Montgomery over 49.5 receiving yards. Probably the least confident I am outside of the Alima because it's always hard to do sacks. Probably the least confident I am with any of these just because it's been a little bit of a struggle. But I think schematically it is a David Montgomery game. It's an interior game, and I think he can be effective on the wide stuff. We just can't have too many blown blocks. The negatives will kill this. But I think we can look at this as a Montgomery game. In last year, I'd feel really good about this. Just you have young guards stepping in. I'm not as fully confident, but I think it's worth the swing. That puts me at plus 2,400. So I love that payout. Yeah, I love that payout. I feel really good about this one. All right, let me see what else the chat's talking about. VTDET 38. I didn't need to read it like that, but it sounded good. I would love Trey in Detroit. Who is that? Ignitable blend, something like that. The Lions fan base would go crazy if Henderson was coming. They would go crazy. And hey man, we're fans at the end of the day. We can do that. We're allowed to do that. We're allowed to go crazy about ideas. I'm not against any of that. I always just try to say what I feel like is going to happen, but I'm not against any of the I see it everywhere. Everybody's throwing names out there. People are fired about a lot of things. I'm with all of it. I'm with the energy. We're fans at the end of the day. Don't give me... Okay, I would like Trey. I just don't think we'll get him. And that's a fair take. That's a very fair take, right? I think we will. Grabbing either Raiders or Powers Johnson. Now, Powers Johnson would be fun. If it's Madden, I'd do that. I still don't really see them trading away. I know he had a really rough game. I don't see them trading him. And again, for the Lions' perspective, I don't think they'd do that because in theory, it's kind of fun. Oh, man, hey, the future here. You could have him as the future center. It's fun, and it makes some sense. It definitely does. I don't see them doing it just because I don't think they would trade for a guy like that they would bring in and he wouldn't start. I don't think they're going to take any snaps away from any of these guys. So I love it long term. I just don't think they'll do it. I just don't get I don't think the timelines mesh. I don't think the Lions would give up a draft pick for that. I'd be here for it. I just don't think they'll do it. Jalen Phillips with a 6th and a 4th. That kind of rental on a pick swap feels right. I think they would. Now, I think a 4th and a 6th would get Jalen Phillips. And I think that Miami, we'll see. Miami's goofy. I mean, they just fired the GM. I think that would get him. It's just the style for me that pulls me. Trey, to me, fits a lot more how the Lions would want to play. And I think, again, the biggest reason that Trey, to me, does make sense at this time is because Trey, to me, I don't think Phillips has this. I think Trey Hendrickson has this ability where Trey Hendrickson allows you to overlook some of the imperfections of a trade going down. Not everything has to line up perfectly for Trey Hendrickson to make sense for them. I think Phillips is a little bit more in that category. I think Trey's skill set as a rusher, I don't think he's one of the best in football, but he's really good, especially as a number 2. You put Hutch opposite of him, Hutch has had one of the highest chip rates in football this year. He's been chipped almost as much as anybody in football as an edge rusher. I think it was 5th last time I saw it. So there's that element. And the interior presence that we have there, I think you can look at Trey and he can allow a front office to overlook some of the imperfections of the trade. I don't think Phillips has that. That's not to say they can't be interested. Right? If it does work out, it works out. But I don't think Phillips has that to him. I think Henderson does. Henderson has a little bit of that power to his game where you're like, you know what, though? You know what I mean? But, he can do a little bit of what, I think they would be willing to overlook some things of how perfect they would be. Let me see if I can find one of these quotes real quick while we're here. Let me see if I can find something cool. 2024. All right. Is there a quote in here I can find maybe? No. Yeah, so this is Brad Holmes. A couple of years ago. He said, yeah, that's a really good question because me and our assistant general manager, Ray Agnew, were both with Les, and he was actually a more integral point person in the free agent process because of his whole role as pro scouting time. But we talked about how when Les first got there in 2012, he drafted for a lot of years, and you were attacking every single position free agency. You were trying to build a roster. We had to take the same approach, but as you kind of build the roster and get more stronger in certain areas, your process alters a little bit because you can be a little bit more. We've always been strategic and selective, but you can be a little bit more selective than you have been in the past. So we're not quite there yet, and this is a couple years ago where the Rams were. But we're being very, very selective there. But me and Ray were just talking about that, and we are getting there. We are getting closer. This was a few years ago about kind of the idea of what the Rams were doing strategically when they were being very aggressive with their draft picks. And I think that based on that quote, kind of the idea is where they're at right now. Again, Trey Hendrickson has the power to, as a player, he has that kind of, I think, how people view him to make you be like, all right, we'll do it. We'll do it. So that's why I think it's going to happen. We'll see, though. Random question. With Decker and Glasgow potentially leaving in year's end, possible. Hopefully not Decker. Decker's extended through this year. But he is dealing with some shoulder stuff, and we'll see on Glasgow, because that is actually a very real financial thing there, too. Would you be good with trading for Quinn Meinerz, the guard from Broncos? 100%. Quinn is a dog. I don't know why they would trade him, though. Is there any buzz really going on about Quinn getting traded? He's a dog, and the Broncos they do a lot through that O-line. Are you okay with him playing the remainder of the year, and what you're willing to give up for that? Okay, I think that's a question towards me, and I think you're talking about Trey. I would say for me, it does depend on the price. Typically, if I try to put myself in the shoes of Brad Holmes again, that's why I really struggle with. That's why I said, because these rumors weren't a thing. When we did that NFC North show, these rumors weren't a thing on Trey. They weren't this significant. If I put myself in Brad Holmes' shoes, typically I would say, no, I'm not okay with that. And I don't think he would be either. But again, I think Trey is someone that at this point in time, where the timelines are, he'd be willing to. So I would say yes. We're doing a watch along. We are doing a watch along for the game. Yes, I'm gonna end this probably 15, 10 minutes before the game starts, and we'll start a new one. That way I can put the thumbnail in and everything. I didn't really do anything for this one. I just jumped on. As soon as I got home, we got to talk about this. Bengals 9-10. So yes, and that's usually what I would think would be the case here. But the more recent rumors about Trey Hendrickson and all this stuff, who knows if they're true or not. That's why the rumors at the end. We know the Lions have been making calls, at least I believe they have by all the receiving reports, constantly. And the rumors have been that, we've made multiple calls to them for Trey Hendrickson. So, and again, him being inactive today was kind of the thing. Again, he's dealing with an injury, so it could just be that. But the fact that he was listed as inactive today definitely caught my eye, because last time we traded for Za'Darius, he was inactive the game before. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to look into. I don't know off the top of my head, when when Za'Darius was inactivated last year before we traded for him, if he was listed with any kind of injury or was just a healthy scratch. I feel like he was listed with something, and then they made him inactive. And obviously, the trade went down. So, that could be for another team, too. You know what I mean? It could be for somebody else. My man said, I wasn't super impressed by Trey against us. Yeah, like I said, at that time, typically with Trey, I don't think Trey's one of the best pass rushers in football, but I think he's very good. I think he gave Manu a lot of problems in that game, a lot of problems. He had a lot of quick wins against him, but it was hard to judge because it was Manu, right? It was Manu's first look. So again, I don't expect you trade for a trade for Henderson as you're looking at it as, okay, he is one of the best 2 or 3 in football. But I think that he's better than Max Crosby as a pass rusher. I think he's better than him as a pass rusher. Now, maybe you want the style a little bit more of how Max plays, but I think he's better than that. I think he's in that next tier. I think fairly. I think he's in there. I don't think he's at the Hutch level, but I think he's right below that. I think he's better than Max as a rusher. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Just got here. We're not worried about his hip injury, guys. And that's something, too. Now, if it's a legitimate injury, that's why he's inactivated, I don't know if that he'll even get traded, to be honest with you. But has Tyleek has only played 7 games? Yes. Okay, I feel like that's a response to something, because I don't think that goes with what I was saying there. How hard to trade for good alignment? It is hard, and that's why I don't see it happening. It'd be fun, but I don't see it happening. Let me see what else I got. The keep saying we good when Z Smith and Miles G. I don't think they are looking at D end with Barnes and Muhammad. Now, I don't think Barnes brings a ton as a pass rusher still. He's gotten better at something. I still don't think he brings a ton. I think he fits, though, really well with the style, because he's very good in coverage. Well, for that role, as a guy that can play in those third downs, they can put him on a line, they can drop him out, and he's a nice spy piece for us. I don't think he brings still a ton of juice as a rusher to this point. But he's very good, when the play breaks down, you have mobile quarterbacks that want to move. He's been very effective in those spots. McNeil just got back, and he was tearing up the DB. I don't think he was tearing up their O-line. I think that's been a little bit overblown. I think he was good. For his first game back, he exceeded expectations for me. I don't think he was, cooking them, though. He has some really strong numbers for those games, but he played 45 snaps. There was stretches there where you didn't feel him as much as I think what some of the highlights point to. But overall, for his first game back, I was impressed. That doesn't say I wasn't impressed. I think he's going to be very good for us. I just didn't think he was like, oh, man, Tampa Bay's getting torched. And Tampa Bay's O-line, it wasn't great going into that game. Their right side of the O-line is beat up. There's a reason they lean so heavy on that left side. That right side was in a very shaky spot. You know what I mean? But for his first game, I'm very pleased with it. And I think he's just going to keep him better, and that's why I have him today getting a sack. You know, I believe in him. I believe in him a lot. Okay, so with that, we'll start to kind of wrap this up. Again, we're going to be live right after this, so to the game. So make sure you tune into that stream if you want to watch along with us. Preview. I told you what I got for today's game. The video is out if you want to check that out. Give me in the chat right now. Let's get some score predictions rolling. I want to see what y'all are thinking for this game. And give me a player to watch, man. I want to see what y'all think for players to watch. There was something I was gonna hit on today before we got this thing started. I can't remember what it was, though. Maybe it'll come to me when I start reading your stuff. So give me some score predictions. Give me a player to watch for today's game. And maybe it'll come to me. I don't remember what it was. It was something I wanted to talk about. I just don't remember. I don't remember. But I have, I think I'm going to sit with my 30 to 24. I think I'm going to sit in that range still, which is definitely the over for this game. It's like a 45 or something over under. It's kind of low. So I think we're going to hit the over. I think we are, because typically I say the under and we don't ever hit it. 30-17 I think is a play. I'm going to go 30-24 though. I think sometimes I over, I don't know. But I still respect this offense a lot, man. I think they're very smart. I think Kevin O'Connell's really smart. I think they're going to get out pretty hot in this game. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Terrion Arnold played really well against Addison. Really, both times we played them last year. Now, I think Addison looks really good this season. But I remember I made the point in the video about Brian Branch and that matchup, how I think that's a good matchup. I still do. But keep in mind, Amik's probably going to see a lot of Jefferson. And that's a handful for everybody. But he did well against him last time he played them. And Terrion probably played his best games against Addison last year. So hopefully that carries over. He is coming off an injury, though, so he's just getting back into the swing. But assuming he starts, I am excited to see how he plays against him, because he has a pretty good track record now of playing really well and matching up really well with Jordan Addison. So I'm just hoping that continues. Gives me a little bit more optimism for the matchup of this game. Trevor Nowoski pick 6. Ooh, that would be tough. Okay. If you can, I'm here for it. Tesla TD. I like that. A Tesla TD. Tesla should be involved today. I think he's going to be involved a bit today. I think he's going to be involved a little more. I think this is the first multiple reception game he has. I don't think he has one this year, so I think this is the first one he gets this year. That's my that'd be my bold prediction. Good to see you so much more educated on football from when he started. Man, I appreciate that, man. It's a growth process. You know what I mean? I feel that way too, though. I feel better about everything, but I appreciate that, man. Dying receiver reports are always sus. No, for real. And honestly, the problem with the dying receiver reports is sometimes I don't know where they're coming from. Like, they say they're from her, and they're all tied like the Athletic, but you can't actually see some of them. So I'm like, I don't really know, man. It seems like she got like tons of rumors going on, and it's like, okay. But I did see her. I saw a clip of her last week on a show. She was on the Herd. And she said that, because it was asked directly about the Lions, she didn't really spend that much time actually talking about the Lions, but she tied the Lions, I think Philly, together as like, they're not rumors, they are making calls. So she was like very straightforward, like, no, they're making calls. So I don't know, we'll see. But all right, I'll take a. That doesn't mean you're gonna do anything, but I'm sure they are making calls. Like, I do believe that. I do believe they're making calls, and it's been out there for weeks that they've wanted an edge rusher. Doesn't mean they're gonna do it. It has to make sense. Hence why I think they're going to go get Trey. I think they are, man. I think it's going to line up for him this year, and I think it's going to happen. So we'll see. With that though, I'm going to wrap this here. I appreciate you. 35-17 Lions, 34-4. Oh, y'all real confident today. That scares me a little bit. I feel like when we get real confident, things get dangerous. They got some good coaches over there. They got some good coaches. I'm curious to see how Minnesota plays this, and I'm telling y'all. The reason I'm putting them at 24, their tackles getting back is massive. I had a dream last night. I think we got cooked by the Vikings, which is not good. Hopefully that's not true. But I remember their O-line was really good last night in my dream. And I think that is going to be big for them, is them getting those 2 tackles back. I think it's going to change a lot, because that team has been atrocious up front. I think it's going to change a lot for them just to get help, because when I say that, they have really struggled with that O-line, and Wentz has done a lot of good behind a disastrous O-line. I mean it, man. I think it's going to help them a lot today. So I expect a little more scoring than maybe what's expected from, I guess, the books, I don't know. I think Anthony Jennings from the Pats is going to happen. Oh, man, I like Anthony Jennings. I don't know how much juice he's actually going to bring us as a rusher if we traded for him. That's one that's truly a depth addition, I think. I struggle with him a little bit because, like, I don't know where he gets his snap. Like, certain guys like that, it's like, okay, is he going to snap over Muhammad? No. Does he get some over Lacey? Maybe a little bit. Like, I don't know how many snaps he actually gets, so I don't know if the Lions would be, like, would the Lions legitimately trade for a guy that gets, let's just say at best, 15 snaps a game? No, I don't think they would, but maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe they like him a lot more. I like Jennings. You know, he's a heck of a run defender. And for the size that he does it as is always impressive. Watch him. I just don't know how much juice he brings where they'd be willing to throw a pick, even if it was a pick swap. Brad Holmes is very careful with his picks he gives up. So that's why I think it's going to happen. You know what I mean? And yes, if we had those 2 third-round picks, it would help. But we'll see. It all comes down to where Cincinnati thinks that they're at. It all comes down to that. And them losing to the Jets might make it possible. I'm going to leave it here, man. I'm going to start a new stream at 1 p.m. Eastern, so join me over there to watch the game. We can keep chatting. If you don't, that's a little messed up. But if you don't, it's all good, man. I appreciate you joining for the little Trey Hendrickson talk here, for watching this back, which you're probably not because the game's about to start. How you doing? And I'll see you guys over there, all right? So enjoy the game, and I'll see you guys at very worst for the post-game on Bleacher Report, and then obviously we'll throw it over here as well. So go Lions. 15 minutes till kick.